The war changed after Foundry 7. For the first time in their history, the Galactic Council admitted they had been wrong. General Jinho Park found himself in an impossible position. He was now Supreme Commander of all human forces and the Chief Military Advisor to the Council itself. Alien species that had mocked Earth now asked for his guidance. Species that had fought wars for 10,000 years were asking humans how to survive. The council chambers were crowded when Jinho presented his strategy. Representatives from every species watched as he laid out a plan that horrified them. "You want us to abandon honor?" the Kelthir War Master asked, his mandibles clicking in distress. "To fight like cowards?" "I want you to win," Jinho said simply. He pulled up casualty reports. "In the last year, the council has lost 4 million soldiers. We've lost 3,000. The difference isn't courage or technology, it's thinking." He changed the display to show tactical comparisons. "You fight the way the enemy expects. You stand in formations. You meet charges with charges. You value glory over survival. That worked for thousands of years because everyone fought the same way. But the Draviks don't care about honor. They care about consuming everything in their path." Major Hana Kim stepped forward. She had been working with alien military academies teaching human tactics. "We're not asking you to become cowards. We're asking you to be smart. Use terrain. Use deception. Strike where the enemy is weak, not where they're strong." A Vraxi general, one of the old guard, stood up. "This goes against everything we are. Our entire culture is built on warrior honor. Glorious combat and open battle. You ask us to throw away our identity." "I'm asking you to survive," Hana said. "Dead warriors have no culture, no honor, no future. You can keep your traditions when the war is over. Right now you need to win." The debate lasted for hours, but slowly, reluctantly, the aliens agreed to try. The cost of refusing was too high. They were losing the war and everyone knew it. Colonel Day Wan became the most unlikely teacher in galactic history. A 50-year-old human veteran training alien warriors who had centuries of combat experience. He stood in front of a Vraxi military academy class looking up at students twice his height. "Lesson 1, he said. "Forget everything you know about fair fights. There is no such thing as a fair fight. There's winning and there's dying. Choose winning." Commander Sung Lim, another veteran, took charge of training the Kelthir. The insectoid species had trouble understanding guerrilla tactics at first. Their hive minds wanted coordination, unity, synchronized attacks. "Think of it like hunting," Xiong explained. "A single warrior doesn't charge the prey head-on. They stalk, they wait. They strike when the prey is vulnerable. Your hive mind is perfect for coordinating these strikes across multiple units." The Kelthir War Master listened carefully. Slowly, understanding dawned. "We have been using our greatest strength, our unity, for direct assaults. But we could use it for synchronized ambushes, coordinated flanking attacks, overwhelming multiple weak points simultaneously." "Now you're getting it," Xiong said with a smile. The changes didn't happen overnight. Old habits were hard to break. Alien commanders still wanted glorious charges. Warriors still wanted to prove their courage in direct combat. But the veterans were patient. They had decades of experience teaching young soldiers, and they used those same skills now. And gradually, the aliens learned. The Vraxi began using terrain to their advantage. The Kelthir started hitting supply lines instead of armies. Smaller species that had been considered too weak for combat discovered they could be deadly with the right tactics. The Draviks, encountering these new strategies, started losing battles. For the first time in 5 years, the Council forces were winning consistently, but the Draviks adapted too. They changed their tactics, became more cautious, started using their own version of guerrilla warfare. The war turned into a grinding stalemate, neither side able to gain a decisive advantage. That's when General Jinho made his boldest proposal yet: attack the Dravik's home system, end the threat at its source. The Council thought he was insane. The Dravik's home system was defended by 20 hive ships and billions of warrior forms. No force had ever successfully attacked it. It would be suicide. "It's suicide if you fight their way," Jinho said. "But we're not going to fight their way." He laid out his plan. It was complex, involving multiple feints, coordinated strikes, and tactics the aliens had never dreamed of using. Instead of trying to destroy the Draviks in one glorious battle, they would dismantle them piece by piece. Lieutenant Colonel Ina Bayek would lead the orbital bombardment teams, targeting infrastructure instead of armies. Captain Jin Lee would coordinate intelligence operations. identifying every queen and command center across the system's 20 moons. Rear Admiral Nari Han, the highest-ranking naval officer in the Veteran Corps, would command the carrier group. The operation would take months. It would require patience, precision, and the willingness to win ugly. The Council approved the plan. They had learned to trust human judgment even when it terrified them. The assault on the Dravik's home system began not with a battle, but with reconnaissance. Jin's intelligence teams infiltrated the outer system using stealth ships, mapping defenses and identifying targets. They worked for 6 weeks gathering data, before a single shot was fired. When the attack came, it wasn't where the Draviks expected. While they prepared defenses around their main hive world, human and alien forces struck at the mining moons that supplied their resources. Without resources, the Draviks couldn't build new warriors or repair their ships. The Draviks sent their fleets to defend the moons. That's when Nari's carrier group hit their undefended supply lines. Freighters carrying food and materials were destroyed. Communication relays were sabotaged. The Dravik's home system was being strangled slowly. Each time the Draviks tried to respond, they found empty space. The attack had already moved to a different target. For 3 months, this continued. The Council forces never fought a major battle. They just kept destroying infrastructure, killing supply ships, and spreading chaos. The Draviks couldn't adapt because there was nothing to adapt to. Their enemy was everywhere and nowhere. Sergeant Yuna O died during this campaign. Her medical transport was caught by a Dravik's patrol while evacuating wounded from a mining moon. She stayed behind to cover the evacuation, using a rifle for the first time in 30 years. She killed 14 Dravik's warriors before they overwhelmed her position. Her last transmission was simple. Medical transport clear. Mission successful. Then silence. When word reached the veteran units, there was no dramatic mourning, just quiet acknowledgement. Yuna had known the risks. She had accepted them. She had done her job to the end. Her granddaughter, the one who loved drawing pictures of stars, received her grandmother's medals. Along with them came a letter Yuna had written before deploying. "My dear one," it read. "If you're reading this, I won't be coming home. I want you to know that I fought not because I loved war, but because I loved you. The stars are beautiful and they're yours now. Draw them, explore them, live in them. That's what I fought for." The systematic destruction of Dravik's logistics took 4 months. When the final assault came, the Draviks were already beaten. Their warriors were starving. Their ships were falling apart. Their queens were isolated and vulnerable. The Council forces moved in with overwhelming precision. Every target had been identified. Every strike was coordinated. There was no glory, no heroic charges, no dramatic battles, just methodical elimination of threats. The last Dravik's queen died not in combat, but from a long-range missile strike. She never even knew the attack was coming. War, the humans had taught the galaxy, wasn't about facing your enemy with honor. It was about ending threats efficiently. When the Dravik central hive collapsed, the entire species fell apart. Without their queens and their organization, the warrior form simply stopped functioning. Some fought until they died. Others just shut down. The war was over. The victory celebrations across Council space lasted for weeks. Parades, ceremonies, honors distributed to heroes. The Vraxi declared Jinho an honorary warrior of their highest caste. The Kelthair offered to incorporate human tactical thinking into their hive minds. Other species wanted human advisors, human teachers, human soldiers to stay and help rebuild. But aboard the transport ships carrying veterans home, there were no celebrations. Just quiet. General Jinho stood in the cargo bay that had been converted into a memorial. On the walls were names. All the humans who had died in the war. 3,000 from the 1st Expeditionary Force. 111,000 from the Veteran Corps. Colonel Day Wan joined him, his empty right sleeve pinned neatly. He had lost his arm in the final battle, crushed when a Dravik's warrior breached his position. He had killed it with his left hand and kept fighting. Was it worth it? A young soldier asked them. She was one of the few who had survived from the beginning, and she looked tired beyond her years. Day looked at the names on the wall. Friends, comrades, people who had volunteered knowing they might not return. "Ask me again in 50 years, he said finally, when the children we saved are old enough to understand. The transport broke orbit around Earth. Through the windows they could see home. Blue and green and beautiful, untouched by the war that had raged across the stars. The sky above Seoul turned dark at noon, not with clouds but with ships, thousands of them. They appeared without warning, their crystalline hulls reflecting sunlight like broken mirrors scattered across heaven. Jinwoo Kang stood at the window of the United Defense Council headquarters in Geneva, watching the same scene play out on every screen. Tokyo, London, New York, Mumbai, every major city on Earth now lived under alien shadows. His coffee had gone cold in his hand hours ago, but he hadn't noticed. He couldn't look away from the screens. "Sir, they're broadcasting again." His assistant's voice was steady, but Jinwoo could hear the fear underneath. The main screen flickered. A face appeared, if you could call it a face. The creature had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, skin that looked like polished stone, and a mouth full of too many teeth. It spoke, and somehow every human on Earth heard it in their own language. "People of Earth, I am Commander Thexral of the Valorian Empire. Your world has been selected for integration into our domain. You have 72 hours to surrender your weapons, dismantle your governments, and prepare for occupation. Resist, and we will turn your cities to ash. Comply, and most of you will survive as workers in our empire." The transmission showed Valorian warships orbiting Earth like vultures. The message was clear. Resistance was pointless. Jinwoo turned to his military advisors. "What do we have?" General Park, a veteran with gray hair and tired eyes, pulled up a holographic display. 43 orbital defense stations, 200 combat-ready spacecraft, 3,000 nuclear warheads, kinetic weapons platforms on the moon. And what do they have? 3,000 warships, each one bigger than our largest station. Shields that can shrug off nuclear blasts, weapons that can crack continents. Park's voice was flat. "We ran the simulations. Even if we land every shot perfectly, we kill maybe 200 of their ships before they wipe us out." Jinwoo sat down heavily. He'd spent 20 years preparing Earth's defenses. He'd pushed for bigger budgets, better weapons, faster ships, and now he was looking at numbers that said none of it mattered. Above Earth's orbit, Captain Minji Han floated in the command center of Defense Station Prometheus. She watched Valorian scout ships zip past her position, so close she could see their hulls through the viewport. They weren't even trying to hide. They flew like tourists sightseeing around a primitive planet. "Captain, should we lock weapons?" Lieutenant Daeho Park asked from the tactical station. Minji shook her head. "They'd destroy us before we finished the lock. Save it for when it matters, but would it matter?" She'd seen the intelligence reports. The Valorians had conquered 12 worlds in the past century. They had weapons Earth couldn't even understand, and they were treating Earth's defenses like a joke. One scout ship flew so close to Prometheus that Minji could see movement inside it. Through the transparent sections of the alien hull, she saw Valorian soldiers. They were laughing, pointing at her station. One of them made a gesture that needed no translation. It was mocking. "They're playing with us," Daeho said quietly. "We're entertainment to them." Minji's jaw tightened. She'd been in the Defense Force for 15 years. She'd trained for alien contact, for space battles, for the day humanity would need to defend itself. But nobody had trained her for this, being so completely outmatched that the enemy didn't even see her as a threat. Halfway around the world, at McMurdo Station in Antarctica, Dr. Yuna Choi was in her laboratory when her computer made a sound she'd never heard before. A deep, resonant tone that made her bones vibrate. She stared at the screen. A message had appeared on her supposedly offline terminal, the one not connected to any network. The message was simple. "Protocol Sleipnir. Activate authorization Kang Alpha 7. Yuna's hands started shaking. She'd worked at McMurdo for 8 years, studying ice cores and climate data. She was a glaciologist, not military. She didn't know what Protocol Sleipnir was, but she knew the authorization code. It was Director Jinwoo's personal signature, the highest level of security clearance in the world. Her computer beeped again. A map appeared, showing levels beneath McMurdo Station. Sub-level 10, sub-level 20, sub-level 30. The numbers kept going down. Sub-level 47. There was an elevator shaft marked on the map behind a storage closet she passed every day. Yuna stood up. Her legs felt weak. She walked to the closet, moved aside boxes of supplies, and found a panel she'd never noticed before. It opened at her touch, revealing an elevator door made of dark metal that seemed to absorb light. The door opened. Inside was a hand scanner. She placed her palm on it, not knowing why she did. The scanner beeped green. The elevator started moving down past the known levels of the station, down into bedrock. down into ice that had been frozen for millions of years. The elevator descended for 3 minutes. When it finally stopped, the doors opened to a massive chamber carved from ice and stone. Lights flickered on automatically, revealing a facility that stretched as far as she could see. Computers, weapons she didn't recognize, massive blast doors, and a control center that looked more advanced than anything she'd ever seen. A holographic display activated in front of her. A man's face appeared, Korean in his 60s wearing a lab coat. "If you're seeing this, Dr. Choi, then Earth is under attack," the recording said. "My name is Dr. Seokjin Yang. I've been dead for 10 years, but my work lives on. What you're standing in is the control center for the Sleipnir project. We've been building it since 1962, and now it's time for the world to see what we've created." Yuna's mind was reeling. What is this? What is Sleipnir? The hologram continued as if hearing her question. Sleipnir is humanity's insurance policy. We are not as defenseless as the world believes. Beneath the ice of Antarctica, we have built 7 ships. Ships that use technology the world above won't discover for 200 years. Ships designed for one purpose, to defend Earth from threats we hoped would never come. The hologram gestured to the control panel. "Activate the awakening sequence, Dr. Choi. Bring them online. And contact Director Kang. Tell him Antarctica is ready to rise." Yuna stared at the controls. Her hands moved almost automatically, following prompts on the screen. She didn't understand what half the buttons did, but the system seemed designed for simplicity. Green buttons for yes, red for emergency stop. A large lever marked Wake Protocol. She pulled it. Deep beneath her feet, something ancient and powerful came to life. The entire facility hummed with energy. Warning lights switched from red to amber to green. On screens around her, 7 massive shapes appeared on sonar displays, buried in ice 50 miles below the surface. Yuna grabbed a communication terminal and sent an encrypted message to Geneva. Her fingers trembled as she typed, "Director Kang, Protocol Sleipnir is active. Antarctica is ready to rise." In Geneva, Jinwoo Kang was preparing evacuation orders for Earth's major cities when the message came through. He read it 3 times, not believing his eyes. Then he stood up, his face transforming from despair to something else, something that looked almost like hope. "General Park," he said quietly, "cancel the evacuation orders, and get me a secure line to all defense stations." "Sir?" Jinwoo smiled for the first time in 3 days. "The Valorians think they know everything about Earth's defenses. They're wrong. They've never seen what we keep in the ice." Above Earth, the Valorian fleet continued their countdown. 72 hours until humanity's deadline. They had no idea that beneath Antarctica, 7 sleeping giants were opening their eyes for the first time in 60 years. The ice had kept humanity's secret. Now it was time for that secret to break free. The 72 hours passed like a countdown to the end of the world. Every news channel showed the same numbers. Hours, minutes, seconds until the Valorian deadline. People prayed. They hugged their families. They watched the sky and waited. When the timer hit 0, Commander Thexeral appeared on every screen across Earth one more time. His 4 eyes gleamed with amusement. "Your time is up, humans. I see you have not surrendered." How disappointing, and how predictable. Every primitive species believes they can fight. Every primitive species is wrong. From orbit, Captain Minji Han watched the Valorian fleet begin moving into attack formation. Thousands of warships repositioning, their weapons ports opening like hungry mouths. "This is Defense Command to all stations." Director Jinwoo's voice came through her comm. "You are authorized to engage. Show them what humanity can do." Minji knew it was hopeless. But if this was the end, she'd go down fighting. "All stations. This is Prometheus," she broadcast. "Lock weapons. Prepare to fire." Across Earth's orbit, 43 defense stations powered up their weapons. 200 spacecraft launched from hidden bases on the moon and in deep space. Nuclear missiles armed themselves. Every gun humanity had pointed at the sky. "Fire!" Minji ordered. The battle began. Prometheus unleashed everything it had, railgun rounds traveling at a fraction of light speed, missiles with nuclear warheads, laser batteries that could cut through asteroids. All of it hammered into the nearest Valorian destroyer. The alien ship's shields lit up like a blue star. The shields held. The destroyer didn't even slow down. Direct hit. No damage, Diho reported, his voice hollow. All across Earth's orbit. The same story repeated. Humanity's weapons struck alien shields and disappeared like raindrops hitting an ocean. Nuclear explosions that could level cities just made the Valorian shields glow brighter. And then the Valorians fired back. A Valorian cruiser launched a single bolt of red energy at Defense Station Atlas. The bolt hit the station's shields, passed through them like they weren't there, and struck the hull. Station Atlas, home to 200 defenders, simply came apart. Metal twisted. Air exploded outward. In 3 seconds, the station was debris. Atlas is gone, someone screamed over the comm. Station Hercules is hit. We're venting atmosphere. This is the Beijing Defense Wing. We've lost half our fighters. Repeat, half our fighters are... The channel went to static. Captain Hyunwoo Lee led Squadron Phoenix into the fight, his fighter weaving between Valorian ships. Behind him flew 12 other pilots, including Taehyung Kwan, the youngest pilot, in the squadron, and Sora Kim, who'd been flying longer than Taehyung had been alive. "Stay tight," Hyunwoo ordered. "Focus fire on that destroyer's engine port." The squadron's missiles converged on a single point. The Valorian destroyer's rear shields flickered for just a moment. One missile got through. It struck the engine housing and exploded. The destroyer listed to one side, trailing atmosphere. Small victory, one damaged ship. Then 10 more destroyers moved to fill its place. "Incoming fire!" Sora shouted. The Valorian ships fired a spread of energy bolts. Hyunwoo's fighter dodged left. The bolt missed him by meters, so close his shield screamed in alarm. Behind him, he heard Taehyung cry out as a bolt clipped his fighter's wing. "I'm hit. Controls are failing." "Eject, Taehyung. Eject now," Hyunwoo ordered. The young pilot's escape pod launched just before his fighter exploded, but there was no one to rescue him. No one had time. The battle was turning into a slaughter. Commander Thexeral's face appeared on all channels again. He was laughing. "Is this Earth's mighty defense? Is this all you have?" His voice dripped with mockery. "We have conquered civilizations that spanned star systems. We have destroyed species that mastered dimensions you cannot imagine. And you are insects trying to fight a boot." The broadcast showed numbers. Earth had destroyed 3 Valorian ships, 3 out of 3,000. And Earth had lost 19 defense stations, 97 fighters, and thousands of lives. "Watch now," Thexeral continued, "as we show you the price of resistance." The Valorian fleet moved into position above Earth's major cities: Beijing, New York, Mumbai, São Paulo, London, Seoul. Massive warships hung in the sky above each city like dark moons. "We will begin with Beijing," Thexeral announced. "Let it be a lesson." In Geneva, Director Jinwoo watched the tactical display. His military advisors were shouting, arguing, some crying. The numbers were undeniable. Earth was losing. No, Earth had already lost. This wasn't a battle. It was an execution. "Sir, we need to evacuate," General Park said. "Get people into bunkers. At least some might survive." "No." Jinwoo's voice was quiet but firm. "Sir?" I said no. No evacuation. No surrender. Jinwoo pulled up a communication channel. "Get me Antarctica. Get me Dr. Choi. Now." In Antarctica, Yuna was 50 levels underground, surrounded by screens showing power levels and system readouts she was only beginning to understand. Her assistant Junho Nam had joined her an hour ago. He'd taken one look at the facility and sat down hard, his legs giving out. "This is real," he kept saying. "This is actually real. Junho, I need you to focus," Yuna said, trying to keep her own voice steady. "This console here, what does it say?" Junho moved to the screen. "Power generation at 70%. Awakening sequence at 85%. Hull systems. My God, Yuna. These power readings, they're impossible. Nothing generates this much energy." "Apparently we do." Yuna pulled up another screen. It showed 7 massive shapes on sonar, each one 3 miles long. They were moving, rising through the ice slowly. "How long until they reach the surface?" "At current rate, 40 minutes. Yuna's comm beeped. It was Director Jinwoo. Dr. Choi, status report. Sir, the systems are online, but I don't know what half of them do. I'm a scientist, not... You're what we have, Doctor. And right now, you're Earth's last hope. The Valorians are about to start bombing our cities. Can Sleipnir stop them? Yuna looked at the screens, at the impossible power readings, at the 7 shapes rising through ancient ice. She thought about Dr. Yang's recorded message, about people who'd worked in secret for 60 years, building weapons they hoped would never be used. Yes, sir. Antarctica is ready to rise. Then rise, Doctor. Show the galaxy what humanity keeps in the ice. Above Earth, the Valorian ship above Beijing charged its main weapon. The energy signature was massive, enough to level half the city in a single shot. People on the ground could see the weapon glowing, a point of terrible light in the sky. Captain Minji Han watched from Prometheus, helpless. Her weapons were empty. Her shields were failing. She'd given everything and it wasn't enough. I'm sorry, she whispered, not sure who she was apologizing to. The people below? Her crew? Herself? Then every sensor on Prometheus went crazy at once. Captain, energy spike! Massive energy spike from Antarctica, Deho shouted. What? That's impossible. There's nothing in Antarctica that... It's not one spike. It's 7. 7 separate energy signatures, each one bigger than anything I've ever seen. On the main screen, the feed from a satellite showed Antarctica. The ice was cracking. Water geysers shot into the sky. The entire continent shook like something huge was waking up beneath it. Then they rose. 7 ships erupted from beneath the ice. Water and ice crystals fell away from hulls that gleamed with strange geometry. They were massive, each one dwarfing even the largest Valorian battleship. Their design was unlike anything human or alien. Curves that seemed to fold space around them. Surfaces that reflected light in colors that shouldn't exist. They rose into the sky without any visible engines, as if gravity had forgotten they existed. They accelerated from 0 to orbital velocity in seconds, heading straight for the Valorian fleet. The lead ship opened a communication channel. A woman's voice, calm and clear, spoke to the entire planet and every ship above it. This is Captain Hana Yoon of the Stellar Defense Frigate Baekdu. To the Valorian fleet, you have 10 seconds to begin retreat sequence. After that, we will consider you hostile combatants. Commander Thexeral stared at his screens. For the first time since arriving at Earth, his expression changed from amusement to something else. Confusion, then concern. What are those ships? Where did they come from? His tactical officer was frantically scanning the 7 vessels. Commander, their energy signatures. They're off all our scales. The shields alone are generating more power than our entire fleet. Impossible. Humans don't have this technology. They're primitives. 10 seconds. Captain Hana's voice counted down. 9. 8. Thexrel's confusion turned to anger. They're bluffing. All ships, open fire. Destroy those 7 ships. 50 Valorian destroyers turned their weapons on the Baekdu. 50 simultaneous blasts of energy that could crack moons converged on the single human ship. The Baekdu's shields lit up, but they didn't buckle. They didn't strain. The energy that hit them simply disappeared, absorbed into the shields like water into sand. Inside the Baekdu, Commander Yoonji Shin smiled at her weapons console. Shields holding at 100%. Actually, correction. Shields now at 108%. Their attacks are feeding us power. Captain Hana nodded. Target the attacking ships. Fire Hellstorm arrays. With pleasure, Captain. The 7 Sleipnir ships opened fire, and the galaxy learned a new definition of terror. The Baekdu's weapons fired, and reality itself seemed to crack. Beams of impossible colors lanced out from the 7 Sleipnir ships. They didn't look like normal weapons fire. They looked like someone was tearing holes in space. The first Valorian destroyer simply stopped existing. No explosion, no debris. One moment it was there, and the next moment there was empty space where it had been. What? Commander Thexeral stared at his screens. What weapon does that? His science officer's hands shook as she read the data. Commander, that was a matter conversion beam. It turned the ship into its basic atoms. Just scattered it into space. 3 more Valorian ships died in the next second. A gravitational lance from the second Sleipnir ship crushed a cruiser like an invisible hand. The ship crumpled inward, metal folding until it was a ball of compressed matter no bigger than a car. Another weapon created a cascade of blue light that jumped from ship to ship. Every Valorian vessel it touched went dark, their systems failing all at once. 12 ships drifted in space, dead in the water. Inside Defense Station Prometheus, Captain Minji Han watched in absolute shock. Her tactical officer Daiho was frantically recording everything, his voice rapid. Those weapons, they're not in any database. The physics alone should be impossible. The energy requirements? We don't have power sources that strong. Apparently we do, Minji whispered. We just didn't know about them. The 7 Sleipnir ships moved through the Valorian fleet like predators through a flock of sheep. They didn't fight like the rigid, predictable battles Minji had trained for. They fought creatively. One ship would phase partially out of normal space, dodging attacks that should have hit it, then phase back inside an enemy formation and fire at point-blank range. Another ship used its gravitational weapons to throw disabled Valorian vessels at their own fleet, turning dead ships into massive projectiles. The Valorians were panicking. Minji could hear it in their communications, even through the alien language. Orders being screamed. Ships breaking formation, some trying to fight, others trying to flee. How? Minji asked out loud. How do we have these ships? Daiho pulled up a communication from Director Jinwoo. Captain, the director is broadcasting to all defense forces. I think he's about to explain. Director Jinwoo appeared on screens across Earth and in every human ship. He looked tired but determined. To everyone watching, human and alien alike, I'm going to tell you a story. A story about fear, preparation, and the secret that's been kept for 63 years. In Antarctica, Dr. Yuna watched Jinwoo's broadcast on her screens while monitoring the Sleipnir ships. She knew this story. She'd learned it from Dr. Yang's recordings over the past hours. Now the whole world would know. In 1962, Jinwoo continued, scientists drilling ice cores in Antarctica found something impossible. 50 miles below the ice, they discovered a deposit of a material that shouldn't exist. We call it Element Zero. It's not on the periodic table. It's not like any matter we'd ever seen. The broadcast showed old black and white photographs, scientists in Cold War-era equipment, staring at glowing samples. The man who first understood what this material could do was a Korean physicist named Dr. Seokjin Yang. He realized that Element Zero could revolutionize energy production, create impossible materials, and enable technology centuries beyond our time. More photographs appeared. A young Dr. Yang, barely 30 years old, holding up a small glowing crystal. His eyes were wide with wonder and fear. Dr. Yang also realized that if this discovery became public, nations would go to war over it. Whoever controlled Element Zero would control the world, so he made a choice. He approached world leaders with a proposal: bury the secret. Build something with it, something hidden, something that would protect all of humanity, not just one nation. The images shifted to construction photos, massive tunneling equipment, thousands of workers in a cavern carved from ice, ships being built in underground shipyards that shouldn't exist. In the depths of the Cold War, with America and Russia at each other's throats, Dr. Yang convinced both sides to work together in secret, along with Korea, China, Japan, and 30 other nations. For once in human history, we set aside our differences and built something together. Captain Hana Yoon's voice cut in from the Baekdu, even as her ship fought. The Sleipnir Project. 7 ships built with technology we hoped the world would never need to see. 70,000 people worked on this project over 6 decades. Scientists, engineers, military personnel. They lived double lives. They kept the secret even from their families. The broadcast showed the construction of the Sleipnir ships. Massive hulls being assembled. Strange engines being installed. Weapons being tested in underground caverns large enough to hold cities. Dr. Yang died 10 years ago, Jinwoo said quietly. He never saw his ships fly, but he left us a message. He said, we build these not for war, but for the day when war comes for us. Humanity is not ready to join the galaxy, but we will be. And until then, we sleep beneath the ice. Commander Thexrel heard all of this. He watched his fleet being destroyed by ships that had been hidden under ice for decades. His certainty had become confusion. His confidence had become fear. All ships focus fire on the lead vessel, he ordered. Overwhelm their shields with sheer numbers. 1,000 Valorian ships turned their weapons on the Baekdu. 1,000 simultaneous blasts powerful enough to shatter planets converged on one target. Captain Hana didn't even look worried. Commander Unji, shield status? Shields now at 200% capacity. The more they shoot us, the stronger we get.
Should I return fire?
Not yet. Let them waste their energy. Redirect absorbed power to the other 6 ships. The Bekdu's shields glowed like a miniature sun, absorbing every blast, and through their quantum-linked systems, all 7 Sleipnir ships became stronger with every attack the Valorians made. Lieutenant Minho Song was piloting a support craft, delivering supplies to damaged defense stations. His small ship had a front-row seat to the impossible battle. He watched the Bekdu do something that made his brain hurt. The ship seemed to fold space around itself, becoming 2 places at once. Half the Valorian attacks hit one version of the ship. The other half hit the second version. Both versions absorbed the energy. Then the 2 versions merged back into one. That's not possible, Minho said to himself. That violates every law of physics I know. Every law you know, a voice said over his comm. It was Captain Hana. Her broadcast was going to all friendly ships. But Dr. Yang discovered new laws. Element 0 doesn't follow normal physics. It exists partially outside our reality. That's what makes it so powerful. And so dangerous. The 7 Sleipnir ships weren't just technologically superior. They were operating on different rules of reality itself. Captain Minji Han received new orders from Director Jinwoo. All defense forces integrate with Sleipnir Tactical Network. You're about to get an upgrade. What does that mean? Minji asked. She found out seconds later. Her ship's computers suddenly connected to something vast. Information flooded in. Perfect targeting solutions. Real-time battlefield awareness. Predictive algorithms that showed her what the Valorians would do before they did it. Captain, our systems just improved, Deho said, amazement in his voice. We're connected to the Sleipnir AI network. It's like having a supercomputer making decisions with us. All across the battlefield, Earth's regular defense forces suddenly became far more effective. Fighters that had been missing shots now hit with perfect accuracy. Defense stations that had been overwhelmed could suddenly predict and counter enemy movements. Missiles found weak points in Valorian shields. It wasn't just about better weapons. It was about fighting smarter. Commander Thexrel watched his fleet being taken apart piece by piece. Not by superior numbers, not even just by superior weapons, but by something he'd never encountered before. Unpredictability combined with perfect coordination. The Sleipnir ships fought like nothing in Valorian tactical databases. One moment they'd charge straight in like berserkers. The next they'd perform complex maneuvers that required perfect timing across all 7 ships. They'd fake retreats, set traps, and adapt to every Valorian counter-strategy in real time. It's like fighting 7 ships with one mind, his tactical officer said, but a creative mind. Not like AI, like humans, Thexrel said bitterly. Unpredictable, irrational. And because of that, impossible to predict. Captain Hana's voice came across all channels. Commander Thexrel, you came here thinking humanity was primitive. You saw our public defenses and laughed. You thought we'd be easy. Let me educate you on something about humans. We're not the strongest species. We're not the smartest. But we're survivors. And survivors prepare. The Bekdu moved into position above Earth, and Captain Hana gave an order that would end the battle. All ships form up. Prepare Ragnarok Protocol. In Antarctica, Dr. Yuna saw the power readings spike to levels that terrified her. They're going to use the Ragnarok cannon. Who knew this reading? It can create a temporary black hole. A what? A weapon that tears a hole in space-time itself. Dr. Yang designed it as a last resort. If they fire this, she didn't need to finish. On her screens, she watched the 7 Sleipnir ships align in perfect formation. Energy began building between them. Power being shared and amplified across all 7 vessels. 3 weeks after the battle, Director Jinwoo stood before the United Nations General Assembly. Every seat was filled. Every camera in the world was watching. He could feel the weight of billions of eyes on him as he prepared to tell the complete truth about the Sleipnir project. For 63 years, the nations of Earth kept a secret, he began. We told you we were spending money on climate research in Antarctica, on scientific stations, on understanding our planet. All of that was true, but it wasn't the whole truth. He pulled up images on the massive screens behind him, construction photos, budget documents, lists of names. Starting in 1962, 32 nations pooled resources in secret. Money that could have built hospitals, schools, infrastructure. We spent it on weapons, on ships, on preparing for a threat we hoped would never come. We lied to you. We lied to our citizens. And today I'm here to explain why and to face the consequences. The assembly was silent. Some faces showed anger. Others showed understanding. Most showed confusion, still trying to process what had happened to their world. A delegate from Brazil stood up. Director Kang, my country lost funding for education programs because budget went to Antarctic research. Children went without schools, so you could build your secret weapons. How do you justify that? Jinwoo didn't look away. I can't justify it. I can only explain it. Dr. Yang believed that humanity would eventually meet other species among the stars. He studied history, our history, and saw what happens when a less advanced culture meets a more advanced one. It usually ends badly for the less advanced, so he proposed we prepare, not for conquest, not for expansion, but for defense. By lying to the world? Another delegate challenged. Yes, by lying. Jinwoo's voice was firm, because if we'd announced the Element Zero discovery, what would have happened? Nations would have fought over it. Wars would have started. The very thing meant to protect us would have destroyed us first. So we buried it. We built in secret. And yesterday those secrets saved 4 billion lives. He let that sink in. The number was undeniable. Cities that should have been ash were still standing. People who should have been dead were watching this broadcast with their families. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Jinwoo continued. I'm asking for understanding. And I'm here to answer any question you have. Every file. Every budget line. Every name. It's all being released today. Full transparency. The age of secrets is over. In Geneva, Dr. Yuna was giving testimony to a different committee. Scientists from around the world wanted to know about Element Zero, about the Sleipnir technology, about everything that had been hidden. Is it true that Element Zero could solve Earth's energy crisis? A physicist asked. Yes, Yuna confirmed. 1 kilogram of Element Zero can power a city for a year. It's the most efficient energy source we've ever discovered. Then why keep it secret? Why not use it to help people? Yuna pulled up a simulation Dr. Yang had left behind. It showed a world map. In the simulation, one nation discovered Element Zero first, then other nations found out. Then came the wars. The projection showed 70% of Earth's population dying in conflicts over Element Zero deposits. Dr. Yang ran thousands of simulations. In every scenario where the discovery became public before humanity was ready, we destroyed ourselves fighting over it. The only scenarios where humanity survived were the ones where we prepared first, unified second, and revealed third. In that order. A Chinese delegate shook his head. This seems like paranoia. Maybe, Yuna said. But Dr. Yang lived through World War II and the Korean War. He saw what humans do to each other over oil, over land, over ideology. He knew what we do over a material that could give absolute power, so he chose to hide it until humanity was ready, and the Valorian invasion proved we still weren't ready. We needed the unity that came from a common threat. Across the solar system, Captain Hana was addressing the Sleipnir cruise. All 7 ships were docked at the new orbital platform, being built above Earth. Thousands of personnel who'd lived in secret for years were finally able to see the sky without restrictions. You've all received offers, Hana said. Every military in the world wants to hire you. Defense contractors want to study your ships. Politicians want your endorsements. Media wants your stories. And you should know you're not obligated to stay in service. The secret's out. Your sacrifice is over. You can go home. She paused, looking at the faces of her crew. But I'm asking you to stay. Because our work isn't done. The Valorians were just one empire. There are hundreds more out there. Some might be friendly. Some won't. Earth needs defenders who understand what we're defending. People who remember that these ships aren't toys or symbols. They're the price we paid for survival. Commander Yunji raised her hand. Captain, are we still under secret orders? Or can we actually tell our families what we do now? Hana smiled. Call your families. Tell them everything. The age of secrets is over. But the age of defense has just begun. On Earth, Captain Minji was meeting with the Valorian prisoners. Not to interrogate them, but to understand them. She sat across from Commander Thexral in a conference room, with translators and guards present. Your empire will respond to this, Thexral said. The Valorians do not accept defeat. Then they'll meet the same fate you did, Minji replied calmly. Tell me about your empire. Why do you conquer? Thexrel seemed surprised by the question. Because we can. Because weaker species should serve stronger ones. It's the natural order of the universe, is it? Or is it just what you've always done? Minji pulled up a datapad. We've been analyzing your fleet's databases. Your empire has conquered 47 worlds in the last 2 centuries. But here's something interesting. 30 of those worlds were less advanced than you. You don't pick fights with equals. You pick on those weaker than you. That's strategic sense, Thexrel said defensively. It's cowardice, Minji corrected. You attack the weak and call it strength. Well, Earth looked weak, and you learned otherwise. I wonder how many other weak worlds out there have their own secrets. How many other species have you underestimated? Thexrel had no answer. The information from Valorian databases was proving invaluable. Earth now had star charts showing inhabited systems across a significant portion of the galaxy. They knew which species were peaceful, which were aggressive, and which were in between. They knew about trade routes, diplomatic alliances, and ancient conflicts. Director Jinwoo was studying these charts when Captain Hana and Dr. Yuna joined him via video call. The 3 of them had become Earth's unlikely leadership team, the director who'd trusted in the plan, the captain who'd executed it, and the scientist who'd awakened it. We've received 14 diplomatic messages, Jinwoo reported, 3 from friendly species welcoming us to the galactic community, 5 from neutral species wanting to open trade, and 6 from hostile empires warning us to stay in our territory. What are we going to do? Yuna asked. We're going to do what we've always done, Hana said. We're going to prepare. But this time, we'll do it openly. She pulled up plans for new construction. More Sleipnir-class ships were being built, but now the entire world knew about them. Mars was getting its own defense fleet. The asteroid belt was being mined for Element Zero. Turns out there were deposits throughout the solar system. Antarctica's was just the first discovered. Humanity was building an actual navy, not just a defense force. We're also going to reach out, Jinwoo added. Captain Han is leading a diplomatic mission. 3 Sleipnir ships will escort her to the Galactic Council. We're going to introduce ourselves properly this time. Captain Minji was surprised when she got the assignment, but she understood the logic. She'd fought with the regular defense forces and worked with the Sleipnir fleet. She understood both worlds. She'd also shown compassion to the Valorian prisoners, treating them with dignity despite what they'd tried to do to Earth. That made her perfect for diplomacy. 2 months after the battle, Minji's ship, escorted by the Baekdu Halasan and a newly commissioned Sleipnir vessel named the Gumgang, departed for the galactic core. It would be a 6-month journey, but they weren't going as conquered primitives or desperate refugees. They were going as equals. Lieutenant Minho requested transfer to the diplomatic mission. He wanted to see the galaxy, wanted to meet other species on peaceful terms, and maybe, he admitted to himself, he wanted to be far from Earth when the next threat arrived. Because it would arrive. The galaxy had noticed Earth now. Some would come as friends, others as enemies. In Antarctica, Dr. Yuna continued her work, but now it was different. The secret facility was being converted into a proper research center. Scientists from every nation were coming to study Element Zero, to understand its properties, to develop new technologies. The underground shipyards were expanding. Construction crews worked around the clock building not just weapons, but exploration vessels, colony ships, and research platforms. Junho, her assistant, had become the facility's chief engineer despite his young age. He understood the Sleipnir systems better than anyone except the original designers, many of whom were dead. He walked Yuna through the new construction bays. We're building 12 more Sleipnir-class ships, he explained, but we're also designing smaller vessels based on the same principles. Scouts, interceptors, fast response ships.